Okay, well, today we have the honor of hearing from Commander Wemett. He was born in Fairfield, California. He enlisted as a hospital corpsman back in 1993 and was selected for enlistment commissioning program in 1999. He attended the University of Washington, where he graduated and received his commission in 2001. His first tour of duty was aboard the USS Lady Gulf, or the CG-55, where he served as an anti-submarine warfare officer and later training officer. In 2004, he reported to the USS Boxer, or LHD-4, where he served as a training officer. In March 2009, Commander Wemett reported to USS Sampson, or the DDG-102, and served as the operations officer. He was then selected for early command and assigned to MCM Crew Persistent. Upon completion of the executive officer and commanding officer tours with Crew Persistent, he served a follow-on early command tour as a commanding officer of IA MCM Crew Olympian. Commander Wemett's tours ashore include a staff tour at Commander Pacific Fleet, a personal exchange program tour aboard with the German fast patrol boat Hyane. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, sorry. It's a P6130, a tour as a student at the Naval War College, and as the operations officer for a float training group Pacific Northwest. Commander Wemett's awards include the Meritorious Service Medal, Navy Commendation Medal, Navy Achievement Medal, and various unit service awards. So let's go ahead and give a nice Arlington Rotary welcome to Commander Wemett.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for that introduction. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm the CO of the USS Kidd. I've been in command of the ship since October of last year, and I expect to be in command through May of this next year. The ship just completed a deployment beginning in January and ending in September, so a little over 8.5 months gone. The deployment originally started out as a deployment to Japan and the area off the South China Sea. We were diverted during that deployment. We were part of the Theodore Roosevelt Strike Group. Ourselves and another ship, USS Pinckney, were reassigned in March to leave 7th Fleet operations and head down to 4th Fleet, where we spent the next 5 months conducting counter-narcotics operations throughout the Eastern Pacific and Caribbean. Ship did very well. During that deployment, we also had a full outbreak of COVID, in which about a third of our crew came down with COVID. They had us pull into San Diego to do a deep cleaning and quarantine period to make sure that everybody was healthy and well. Following that, we got back underway and returned to 4th Fleet, where we completed missions there. Overall, the ship was able to interdict over 830 kilograms of cocaine, along with disrupting several other smugglers that ended up dumping their cocaine into the ocean. We also did 2 humanitarian assist missions, including a towing mission of a fishing vessel from about 200 miles off the coast towards Costa Rica. I'll open it up for questions from y'all on anything you would like to know.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Please explain the level of fear when you roll up on something that you know just has a ton of drugs, and without being joking, like, you know, knowing that these people will risk their lives to make sure their mission is complete as well.
Sure.
Do you go in feeling pretty good, or do you feel going a little nervous, or what does that really look like?
So I have the benefit of traveling in a 560-foot vessel. Most of the ships that we were interdicting were anywhere from 26 to 34 feet. So intimidation factor plays a big role in it. Also, we have an embarked helicopter deck. And so for us, the big benefit was we had a sharpshooter assigned from our helicopter. So anytime we were doing an interdiction on these boats, they would normally shoot the engines out first. Once you watch a helicopter shoot your engine out and put you dead in the water, your will to fight is pretty much gone. And so it was good to have that capability and be able to really be able to roll in without a whole lot of concerns about our safety and well-being. Most of the ships also were traveling with no more than 5 or 6 people, most of the time only with 3. So thankfully, overwhelming numbers and a much larger ship kept us pretty safe while we were down there.
What kind of speeds can your ship hit in pursuit?
So we can do just over 30 knots. Some of the boats that are smuggling down there can do 45 to 50 knots. Thankfully, the helicopter can fly at 200 knots. So it gives us a great advantage.
I assume you're based in Everett. How many other ships are based in Everett?
So there's 5 ships here currently, and that's supposed to be going up over the next couple of years. There's also 2 ships that are here in maintenance, a cruiser and a destroyer down in Seattle. But I've been stationed here since 2015.
Is there still an aircraft carrier?
So the carrier is only over at Bremerton right now. They don't have one here in Everett.
Gene, you're muted.
What propulsion do you have on the Kidd? Is it the 747 engines, or is it old steam, or what makes you go?
Yes, sir. We have gas turbine engines. There's 4 of them that power our shaft and 3 of them that power the ship. They're pretty powerful and give us about 100,000 shaft horsepower total.
Could be enough.
I was asking on the Lincoln, is it being repowered or is it out on duty?
So most of the aircraft carriers are going to be going through refueling periods. And so I think that's what she's set to do next year, is start in her long-term SRA.
How do you determine which ships out there are smuggling drugs and which ones are just out for a regular voyage?
So there's actually a whole staff, our Southcom Commander 4th Fleet staff that provides a lot of intel that they get from cooperation between local agencies. When we're assigned down in 4th Fleet, we're assigned to an entity called JIATF South. It's the Joint Interagency Task Force South. And so there's DOD, CIA, along with a lot of other agencies, particularly the Coast Guard, that supports most of the missions. When we are assigned down there, we take a Coast Guard detachment on board. And whenever we're doing counter-drug operations, we actually shift flags from the U.S. Navy to the U.S. Coast Guard, and they have operational control over us. We had support while we were down there from 4 ships of the Navy, about 7 different Coast Guard vessels, and then we had some maritime patrol aircraft assigned also. So most days we had our own aircraft assigned. They would essentially do spotter duties for us, give us areas to go patrol. And then once something was spotted, we would send the helicopter out and then determine if there was enough probable cause for us to continue on with the drug mission.
Any chance that you could put one of those Coug flags I see on College Game Day on that little boat before you take it over, and then kind of film the whole operation?
I'm amazed that we might be able to do that, but I'm not sure we'd be able to release it.
Well, they might already have one. I don't know.
Yep, never know.
Starting out as a corpsman, did you ever expect to go up the chain of command and end up being a commanding officer of a ship?
No, sir, not at all. I joined the Navy expecting to be able to get college paid for and move on after 4 years. I hit that point and just kept going. The Navy selected a program that allowed me to finish school. And so I got to go to the University of Washington to finish off my last 2 years. And since then, I just haven't known how to quit. Luckily, I've been blessed this is my third command tour, and it looks like I should be able to follow it up with another one after this.
Wow, how many years have you been in the service so far?
27 years, sir.
Outstanding.
So what does the next command look like? Is it a bigger ship? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so for us, every time we get an opportunity to command, it is larger vessels. So I was fortunate to be able to do Lieutenant Commander Command. So I had control of a minesweeper. I was stationed in San Diego and then Bahrain. Those ships, less than 300 feet long and a crew of about 70 to 75 people. And then as we move up in rank, then you get larger ships. So in this case, I was able to get a destroyer over 500 feet and a crew of 320. And if the opportunity presents itself again where I get another ship, I'll go to a capital ship, which will be either a cruiser or one of our large deck amphibs.
You have a favorite port of call?
I am partial to Hong Kong. I've had the opportunity to be there a couple of times. First time was in 1996 before the turnover to the English, or from the English to the Chinese. And then I got the opportunity to go back twice since then, seeing the changes and seeing how much that city, really that entire island has changed. It's probably one of my favorite ports of call. And then I got to spend 2 years in Germany also on an exchange tour with the German Navy. So I would love to go back to Europe if that opportunity ever presents itself.
You still do shellback?
Yes, and on this deployment, we were able to do a shellback ceremony, a crossing the line ceremony. It's interesting in that a lot of the places we have gone over the last 10 years or so really don't cause us to cross the line very often. For Westpac sailors, unless you go down to Australia, the area of operations that we've been in just haven't allowed us to cross the line. So we were greatly outnumbered shellbacks to wogs when the deployment started. But we were able to run the ceremony and appropriately indoctrinate a bunch of new shellbacks.
You know, some of the people may not know what we're talking about. Maybe how to describe that.
Sure. So Navy tradition is that whenever you cross the equator, that we do a special ceremony where you're welcomed into the realm of King Neptune and Davy Jones. The old ceremony included a lot of traditions that were a little bit abusive, and so we're not allowed to do many of those things anymore. I had the pleasure of crossing the line the first time in '96 when some of those more abusive things still occurred. Nowadays, we rely a lot on tradition and have toned down many of the elements of the ceremony, but no cameras are allowed, and we still make sure that it is a very respectful tradition.
Did mine in 1980.
Sir.
Do you? I never crossed, but after 23 years, I always wanted to. Have you? Do you still have the Marines on board and have the mail buoy watch? You know, looking for mail at sea.
Yeah, so that there are some traditions that have not gone away, although we are not allowed to participate in hazing activities. There are still some practical jokes that go on.
Including the BT punch?
Yeah, BT punches. So the BTs are gone, so we can't use that one anymore. But ID10T forms are still
Oh, yeah.
sought after. The mail watch still occurs. Batteries for sound-powered phones and requisitions of those sorts, bucket of steam, things like that do still occur.
And the CBAT watch. Oh dear.
I have a question, Commander.
Sir.
There's been a lot of focus on race, a good deal of unrest all across the country. In the early 1970s, we went through the same thing, and there were serious racial incidents on over 100 U.S. naval vessels in the early 1970s. That's firmly fixed in my mind because I was in the middle of one of them for about 12 hours. What's the climate today, and what's the Navy doing about the whole issue?
Sure. So since the protest started this March through May, we had several messages that were put out by our leadership, including from the CNO, encouraging us to have discussions with our crew about the unrest and things that were going on. Thankfully, our ship was deployed at the time, so most of the knowledge of it came sort of second or third hand to most people, so they really weren't involved in it or overly affected by it up front, because, I mean, just out at sea, we don't have capabilities on communication and things like that. So although we'll get news and things, it's only written, so it's don't have any video, don't have any firsthand accounts of a lot of the stuff that goes on. We sat down with different portions of the crew, talked about what was going on, the reasons for it, and there was even a portion where, as we were coming back, we talked about the limits of what people can do, both in the political arena and with regards to the protest. For the military, we tend to encourage our folks to not participate in both politics and in those protests. We provide people with lots of warnings about if you find yourself in the middle of one of those protests, how to react, how to do things, and that encourage them to act responsibly and find other outlets rather than direct participation.
Commander, does your family live in the Everett area? And I guess a general question, do most crew members enjoy the Everett area?
Yeah, so I live up in Stanwood. I have family that lives up there. My eldest son graduated from Stanwood High School this last year, joined the Army, and so he's currently off at infantry training right now in the Army. My youngest is a 16-year-old and a junior at Stanwood High. And then my wife actually grew up here in the Washington area. Her father was a chief warrant officer in the Navy who retired over in Bremerton. And so I actually met her when I was stationed in Bremerton on my first ship when we came up here. And then I've got the long history after going to the University of Washington and just keep coming back up here. A lot of folks that do get stationed up here like it up here and try to stay up here. And then overall family members, we've got about 60% of the crew that is married. And so, yeah, we have lots of family members that live here, Everett, Marysville, Arlington area. Some of them choose to go south down near Bothell, and a lot of the single individuals tend to shift closer to the city. But yeah, we have pretty good presence out in town also.
Anything that we can do as a community to help support the crew?
So if it wasn't for COVID, there would be a lot that I would be able to suggest.
Okay.
Right now, our COVID restrictions, we are in HPCon Charlie, which is Health Protection Condition Charlie, which is the second most severe of the current conditions. So anytime that conditions in the local area are exceeding 100 new cases per 100,000 people, we essentially are locked down. So right now we are work to home and home to work with only essential stops allowed, which really limits our ability to be able to do a lot of stuff. We're restricted right now from being able to do dining out at in-town establishments. We can only take takeout. I'm hoping this doesn't last very long, but as long as those restrictions are in place, it really limits what we can do.
Commander, I had heard about a program where people can send cards and letters to the military across the world. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, ma'am. So when we're deployed, quite frequently we get care packages and letters, particularly from school age groups and the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts of America are the ones that we normally get them from. Anytime a ship deploys, we go on the list to be able to get the stuff. It isn't directed at USS Kidd. It's just any ship, any sailor. But yeah, every time we deploy, we get constant flow of that mail, and we do appreciate it.
Are you allowed to do any recreation up at Jim Creek?
So right now we're not. Again, we just returned to HPCon Charlie, which stops us from even being able to do normal outdoor activities. Up until this week, we were allowed to go do things, and so a lot of our crew does enjoy hikes in the mountains, and we've used Jim Creek facility several times for command picnics. We tend to use it each year for our chief's transition ceremony, the final night and all of that stuff. But because of COVID this year, we're pretty limited in what we can do.
Any other questions for Commander?
Nope.
Well, thank you very much, Commander Wemett, for giving it your time today to talk to us. And with that,